did you play in the NHL if you were not a professional NHL hockey player?
I get a bunch of missed calls on my phone after the practice, and I call the number back, and it's the goalie coach for the Washington Capitals, who at the time were the defending Stanley Cup champions. This is like someone off of like Wall Street going and pitching for the Yankees that night. Like, it's craziness. I was kind of like the everyman. Every person who didn't make it, I was that person for that one night.
Anything is possible.
Even what you might think is impossible. I was 31 years old. My hockey career was long over, and I got the chance to play in the NHL. I could have written the textbook on what to do, but I could not make it work. I couldn't apply it. I kept working harder, and the hard work wasn't working for me. And when that happens, we keep just pounding our head into a brick wall, or we're forced to back up and look around for the door. And when I started asking those questions of myself and doing the internal work, everything got easier. Everything was turning to gold when I touched it. Probably the only difference between you and the person that you admire and the person who has done everything that you could ever want to do is belief.
Hi, Gavin. Welcome to All Over Again podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited that after many trials and tribulations, we are here.
We are here. It was meant to be. Okay.
Yes.
So, questions for you. I have so many.
Yeah, good.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did you play in the NHL if you were not a professional NHL hockey player?
You warned me this question was coming. It's always funny when I hear, how did you play in the NHL? So in hockey, for those people who don't know, in ice hockey, each team carries two goalies. So goalies are separate from the players, right? They have specific equipment, a specific job. They carry two goalies. What had happened multiple times over the years in the National Hockey League as things got more faster and more aggressive is a couple of times teams would have both their goalies would get hurt in a game, or something would happen where one goalie couldn't play and then the other one couldn't play. And then they're stuck with like a few minutes left in a game and they don't have a goalie, right? So like they would have like equipment managers would go put equipment on, or like players from the team would go and play a totally different position. And this isn't like some like tight end playing quarterback. Like, it's very different. There's totally different equipment. It's a totally different thing. Most people pick this position by the time they're like 10 or 11 years old. So you can't just ask somebody to go do it. So what the National Hockey League did to try and solve this problem is they created this emergency backup position where you would have in each city, in each NHL city, there would be a team of local goalies who would rotate through and be this emergency backup. You would go sit in the press box. It was really cool because we got to like take a guest. So I felt really important, and you get to like eat the press meal before the game, and you bring your equipment. And, you know, if you're needed to play, you have to like go put your equipment on and potentially play. It happens very rarely. So I think in total, now I never actually got to like step foot on the ice in the game. So, but I would be considered somebody who actually like played because I went on the ice in warm up with a team. I think it's only happened 3 times, and this came into effect in like 2018. So, 6-7 years, it's happened 3 times. I'm one of them. So I'm on the emergency backup list, and my game, you get to choose your games, and my game was, I can't remember the exact date. It was in November of 2018. And I was actually coaching hockey. I was coaching a university team, and I get a bunch of missed calls on my phone after the practice, and I call the number back, and it's the goalie coach for the Washington Capitals, who at the time were the defending Stanley Cup champions. And he's like, "Yeah, we need you today. Our goalie's sick. He showed up to the rink this morning sick. So you won't play, but you need to dress. You need to warm up with our team, and you need to be ready to play." So I'm like flying through the city with my equipment, trying to get to the arena and all this stuff. Finally get there late, 30 minutes before the warm up starts, and had to get a physical so that I could, actually be allowed to play. I signed an amateur tryout contract, got to see my my jersey hanging up and my name on my stall. Like they did it really well, and got to meet all the players. One of which, I don't know if people follow hockey, but one of which is someone named Alex Ovechkin, who is likely to break the all-time scoring record this season or next season, which is really, really a pretty cool experience. And yeah, I got to like be a part of their team, put my equipment on, put the jersey on, go out with the team, warm up with the team. I actually stopped a couple of shots, not many, but stopped a couple of shots. And then I sat there and just prayed that nothing happened to the other goalie. And luckily nothing did. So I got to experience everything, and I didn't actually have to have the pressure of playing in a National Hockey League game. But yeah, like this is like someone off of like Wall Street going and pitching for the Yankees that night. Like it's craziness. I was kind of like the everyman. Every person who didn't make it, I was that person for that one night.
That is incredible. It kind of reminds me of those sort of sponsorship opportunities from my past where, you could go hang out with the players and, maybe shoot around with them or play with them for a little bit. But I never would have imagined the next level of having the pressure to actually potentially have to go out into the game and being of that caliber that you actually could.
Yeah. So like I played a high level of junior hockey. I played college hockey, but the rule was that you couldn't have ever played professional hockey, because if you were a professional, then you would need to be paid, and that would go against the salary cap. And lots of teams go right up against the salary cap. So if they had to pay somebody a few $1,000, that could actually tip them over the salary cap, which causes a whole bunch of other issues. So it had to be an amateur. So I was like in this perfect pocket where I got really lucky, where I was like good enough and on enough people's radar. Like I was on the general manager and assistant general manager's radar enough that they gave me a call and said, "Hey, we want you to do this thing." I mean, got that opportunity to play. And like, I believe it, in the first chapter, it's actually the prologue of my book that I explain this story. And I believe that I, in many ways, put myself in this position, both physically, of course, by being in good shape and all those things, but also like energetically and in a mindset perspective by just like kind of speaking it into the world.
Do you feel like you manifested it to happen?
Yes. Like I know a lot of people get maybe a little queasy around that word, but I do believe that I was working with the universe on that one. That's for sure.
Is it possible that the opportunity could come up again? Are you putting it out there?
So when COVID hit, I think I aged out. They never called me again. So that opportunity, I would say for me is pretty much toast now. But I often have these glimpses of things where I'm like excited about, maybe doing things like joining like the Masters games and things like that. I'm not 40 yet, but when I'm 40, like doing some cool things in terms of different sports and obscure sports and stuff like that. So who knows? I mean, if I can do that, one thing that 3 people in the world have done, then I could do pretty much anything.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Like even what you might think is impossible. I was 31 years old. My hockey career was long over, and I got the chance to play in the NHL, which is pretty cool.
It's huge and totally a different sport. But something similar happened to my friend Michael Block in golf. I don't know if you followed that, but he is a professional. Well, he's a PGA teaching pro. And
yes. Okay. I did hear this story.
He was playing in a tournament and made this incredible hole-in-one. I mean, the fact that he was actually in the PGA tournament to begin with was huge. And the fact
like he qualified or something, didn't he?
He qualified, right? As a PGA teaching pro. It's amazing. It's amazing that that moment happened and that forever sort of sealed his fate.
Yeah. Yeah.
As an incredible golfer, as the incredible golfer that he is, but not necessarily as a PGA professional that tours.
Exactly. I think that's what the coolest like legacy part of this is. Cause like, yeah, I mean, I'm always going to have that story, but I think the legacy of it is like, it's so ridiculous and so like it's like you can't compare it to anything else, that like there's no logical way to explain it. There's power in that.
Absolutely. That is so cool.
Yeah.
You will be able to share this with your children and generations to come. And speaking of which, you are a new father. Yes?
Yeah, my little guy Henry is gonna turn 5 months old in about a week after we record this. So yeah, he's a very new father.
So, do you feel like fatherhood has changed you or too early to tell?
I 100% feel like it's changed me. I was actually just having a conversation with a client just before this, who she's a mother of two and expecting a third, and how I think the biggest thing that changed for me, parenthood forces you to ask different and better questions of yourself and of your way of doing things, right? I mean, if you want to be a present parent, which like my number one goal is to first and foremost be a present husband and father, and then have an awesome business and affect a whole bunch of people positively. But I want to affect the people at home first. With that goal, it forced me to ask the question of like, a lot of my work is just like this. We're on Zoom calls and we're taking in a lot of things from other clients and their problems and things like that. And I found that I was showing up like with my wife, I would be exhausted at the end of the day. So it forced me to ask these questions of like, okay, how can I, make the money to support our family and even to like inspire people, like make enough money to inspire people and not be exhausted at the end of the day. Right? That forces us to think differently. It forces us to get creative in how we're thinking and solving problems. And this is the thing, like our brains are problem solving machines, right? The problem is most people give it not very good problems to solve. Oh, how do I get more of this or more of that? I was forced to ask different questions and solve different problems. And I just feel like now the purpose and the drive for me is it's coming from such a deeper place of like alignment. It's hard to explain, but I hope that it makes sense to people listening.
It makes sense to me. And insofar as you're talking about this, asking yourself the question of how to become more present, what were some of the things that you did to, in fact, be more present?
There are like things like in the moment to obviously try and be more present, like when I'm with him, like making sure my phone's away, like out of my reach, but also like setting boundaries that like, okay, once this happens, I'm not on the clock anymore, because it's very easy for us as entrepreneurs to be on the clock. And my wife's caught me on that a few times, and I've caught myself on that a few times. But then there's also like the bigger questions of like, well, is my current offer of how I make money serving me? Like, is that helping me to reach this goal? And what I found was, in many ways it wasn't. So I was forced to start the transition to another way of offering my value to people that allowed me to still provide the value, but didn't force me to be on Zoom all the time in order to do that.
So what is the new value proposition minus the time and sort of energy suck?
Now, thanks for asking. So the way that I have a unique perspective, because I've been inside a lot of big, like 7-figure business coaching businesses as like a mindset and performance coach inside of there. And so I've seen a lot of the problems that a lot of online coaches have. One of the biggest problems is this like income roller coaster of, constantly trying to acquire new clients. And acquisition, as anybody listening to this who's an online coach, is like, acquisition's way harder and way more expensive now. The problem that I'm solving is how they can make more money without having to take more sales calls and do more marketing and all those things. And that happens through, I insert or license my coaching framework, my mindset and performance coaching framework, into your business. So you get to license all of those coaching materials, and I come in once a month and do a coaching call for your entire group. There's some other things that people can buy and get and things like that. But basically, we allow the clients, whether it's fitness clients or business clients or whatever it is that this business is teaching, these videos and trainings and worksheets and all that stuff help those people bash through their limiting beliefs, regulate their emotions, build a foundational level of confidence, and all of these things, which, as anybody who's really had any results ever knows, the most important thing is the shift in the mindset, not necessarily just doing the workouts or doing the tactics and strategies. It's who you become on the way. And that's what I want to help people do.
What is one mindset shift tool that you are willing to share with us?
I'll share them all.
Even though we're not like, we're not paying you to, if to do a big coaching session, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, let me first talk about that. The information that I share is not valuable anymore. Okay. Like nobody's information is valuable. And I don't know if you guys, if anybody out here is paying attention, the people who are like at the top of the industries who are like crushing it, all their stuff's free on YouTube.
True.
You could go get all their stuff on YouTube. The best people, they're like, here's a bunch of free stuff. Just take it all.
Like Gary Vee.
Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy. I don't know if a little lesser known, but he has like 1 million followers, a guy named Dan Martell. It's all free.
Oh, sure. Dan Martell, Clubhouse. He got his start on Clubhouse. Used to listen to him.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Clubhouse. What a flashback.
I
Clubhouse.
know.
What a
that
time.
was like what a time that was.
So these people are like, they're giving away everything. What they're selling is implementation. So like, I'm happy to give away anything because I know the energy of money and the energy of investing in yourself and how that changes things. So the best mindset tool that I have helped a lot of my clients with is, so a lot of people will be frustrated by lack of results or frustrated that they're not hitting their goals fast enough or all of these kind of like negative emotions. And we often just spend so much time being angry and frustrated that we forget that there's a great lesson in there. And if we get curious around these things and ask ourselves, what belief or story is this uncovering in my subconscious? Because we all have these deeply embedded beliefs into our subconscious brain. And those people who don't know, we don't get taught this. I can go deep into conspiracy theories, but nobody teaches us this, that our subconscious brain is 95 to 98% of our brains. Our conscious brain, where we set goals and visions and get excited about things, is 5% of your brain. So we all have these stories and these beliefs that, were indoctrinated into us from our parents and from society and from culture and from all of these things. They're hiding behind the surface and they're really moving the chess pieces. Most people don't live life very consciously. They don't recognize that these are there. And Carl Jung has a great quote. He's one of the OGs of modern psychology. Is until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. We need to figure out, how do we make the unconscious conscious? And really it comes from, well, what's frustrating you? When you're acting out of alignment or when you're frustrated about things, what's the devil on your shoulder saying? What's the voice in your head saying, right? You're like, don't make that post on social media. It's like, well, you suck anyway. You're not good enough anyway. Or, you're procrastinating on building out your course or something like that. Well, the course isn't good enough and people are going to make fun of you and nobody's going to buy it. These are subconscious beliefs. Another thing that a lot of people don't ever ask themselves is, what are my beliefs around making more money and being wealthy? I was brought up middle class. My whole life, all I wanted to be was rich. However, I was taught to think that rich people were shady or got everything given to them or worked so hard that their families hated them. So I was taught to not like rich people. Until I changed that belief, I could never get rich without hating myself. So I think these are the places most people aren't asking themselves enough questions around what's not working or where there's frustrations. And when you can uncover those unconscious beliefs, like I'm not good enough, or nobody cares about me, or being rich will make people hate me, or whatever, then we can't change those. And when we know them, we can change them and we can start to rewire them and then live from a different place.
I love that. And I think I especially love that because as you're saying that, I'm thinking, oh yes, a limiting belief is indoctrinated, right? Like, oh, you're not supposed to, in my case, you're not supposed to talk about money. That's gauche. That is techie.
Yep.
That is not something that people do. Like, it's not okay.
But we all think about it.
And I think what I've learned as a woman, and, going for a very long time in a corporate career, is that you have to talk about money. You have to ask for it. But in order for you to understand what you should be asking for, maybe you should be talking to your peers first to get an understanding of what your value on the street, so to speak, is. What is that equitable sort of value, not just in your company, but it could be friends or colleagues from other places. And I found that to be very uncomfortable, but also enlightening. And so to your point of, you just have to get over it because all the guys are doing it. They are. And that's how they get ahead. And that's how they go into that discussion for that promotion. And they ask for it and they get it because they know that they have a value that has been, actually approved and credited somewhere else. Like, they know that it's a real thing that they can ask for and it's achievable. And why not them? So why not us? So anyway, I just went on my little tangent there, but when you said that, it really struck a chord.
There's so many of those unspoken and almost swept under the rug things, particularly with women in the professional world. But there's also further to that, there's so many people who just think that a certain level of success is just not for them. And frankly, if you look at anybody, like we mentioned, Dan Martell, the guy was in prison when he was a teenager.
That I did not know. Wow, that's impressive.
Guy was in prison. He, I won't ruin it, but the prologue of his book is basically him in a high-speed chase from the police and trying to pull a gun out of his center console. And if it didn't get stuck, he probably wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
That's the level. And one of my current mentors, he built an 8-figure company in the nutrition coaching space. And he told me when I was speaking to him a few years ago, he said, a year before I had $1 million business, I couldn't afford coffee. If anybody has ever had a rags to riches story, which we've just uncovered 2 of them, and there's been millions more, then why can't you, if you're in the rags right now, have a rags to riches story? It's all the belief that you have and the misinterpretation of the world around you that is not serving you anymore.
So what is a limiting belief that you had what is a limiting belief that you had that you were able to overcome?
Do we have all day? So the biggest one, and this is one that showed up in many different places in my life. It showed up in my hockey career when I was a junior hockey player trying to make the pros. And I got up to those higher levels where it got more challenging. And then it showed up in my business life when I was a personal trainer and I was trying to move online and sell bigger packages. And that was this massive fear of failure. Right. And I believe that the school system, unfortunately, teaches us this, that failing is bad. Right. Literally, if you fail, you get held back. Right. And in the business world and in the personal development world, anybody who is trying to do something big is inevitably going to fail. And I was deathly afraid of failing. And so when I was playing hockey and I started failing, I started blaming everybody else. And then I quit. I literally tried to get out of there as fast as I could. And then I was of course I didn't learn from it because I was an 18-year-old. I was a complete idiot. And then I, get to 25, 26, 27, and I'm, 10 years later and I'm trying to grow this online business and it starts getting hard and people start saying no on sales calls and all this stuff. And I immediately wanted to go back to my mediocre, low priced offer that was burning me out. But I was lucky enough to have people in my corner that challenged me on that and forced me to shift the beliefs around what failure really means. And, everybody says, oh, failure is feedback. But the reality of it is that if you are afraid to fail And if you are afraid to make mistakes and you are afraid to look stupid, then you will constantly be playing small and you'll never get to a place where you challenge yourself enough to truly grow and truly like break free of some of those patterns that a lot of us are stuck in.
This is so wise, I feel like. And it's funny, I had another guest named Lydia Finet, and one of the things that she shares is find the fun in failure. And so that thought came up in my mind. So you can credit Lydia for that one, but
yes,
it's a good one, right? And it's catchy and it's memorable. So what is a quote that you live by?
Oh man. I think a part of it is that I already dropped it, is this whole like making the unconscious conscious. Like I truly believe that's probably one of the most powerful quotes for me. And it's what got me from this place of really, really struggling to figure out what I wanted to do to allowing myself to look inward and grow. And it's one of the ones that I do share in my book. I'll repeat it again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Like I believe the work that we're here to do is to master ourselves and to become the best version of ourselves that we can. I like to steal Ed Milet's idea that when he dies, whatever you believe in as your maker, he believes in God, that God is going to show him the best version of himself. And heaven is like being best buddies with that person and like doing a bro hug. And hell is not knowing that person at all and not recognizing them and seeing what you could have been and what you weren't. And I believe that the work there is in going inward and asking yourself the hard questions and getting curious and in overcoming some of these limiting beliefs and limiting stories that we have that put a ceiling on our success.
So let's talk about your book, Consciouspreneur. It feels like that very much may have been inspiration for it. Can you tell us a little bit more about that moment where you decided, I need to write this book and this is what it's going to look like? Because
there was a lot of iterations of it. The biggest driver behind it was twofold. The first one is I believe that this book is going to outlive me. And it's going to be something that my son can read. And I think that's one of the most powerful things in the world. Like we have this physical asset that explains a lot of the way that we think. That's really cool. But, the subtitle of the book is called Consciouspreneur. And honestly, I could have called it Conscious Athlete. I could have called it Conscious Parent. I could have called it any of those things. I just use Consciouspreneur because that's where a lot of my audience is. But the subtitle is What to Do When the Hard Work Stops Working. And I think that's a more telling part of the driver behind the book was I kept finding myself and kept seeing other people that I was coaching. I could have written the textbook on what to do, right? Like, honestly, like I was like in business coaching programs and like kept buying different business coaching programs, had great coaches. And I could have written the textbook on how to grow on Instagram and how to do copywriting and what to do for sales and all these tactics and strategies and all this stuff. But I could not make it work. I couldn't apply it. It wasn't working for me the way that it was working for other people. And this was that idea of like, I kept working harder and the hard work wasn't working for me. And when that happens, we're either like, we keep just pounding our head into a brick wall, or we're forced to back up and look around for the door. And for me, that looked like looking inward and going, what are the patterns that keep happening that are stopping me from applying these principles that I know will work? Right. And I see this all the time with like fitness coaches and their clients, right? Everyone knows if you want to be not fat anymore, go exercise more and be smarter about what you're eating and make sure you sleep. Like everybody knows that. Why does 80% of the world not do it? Because they've got these ingrained beliefs in their head. So they can work their tails off, but it doesn't matter because they're just going to kind of keep coming back to those same places. So for me, it was like, this was across the board for me of just like, I was kind of doing the wrong hard work. I was doing the external hard work, but I wasn't really doing any of the internal work. And when I started asking those questions of myself and doing the internal work, everything got easier. Everything felt like everything was turning to gold when I touched it. It was like, oh, that was an easier sale. Oh, that was easier. Oh, this was easier. And I think that when I realized that, it was like, oh, I know I'm still relatively young and I'm still in the middle of my journey, but there's something here that people need to hear. And then, when I originally started writing some of these stories out, it was just to try and get some of these hockey stories like out into the world, because they were just fun stories and it was really interesting. Like, I realized that my path was pretty interesting. I left home at 16 years old to move to a different country to play hockey. A lot of people didn't do that. And so there was like some really cool stories but I realized like no one just wants to read a bio of me. So let's make it like a self-help personal development book with these stories intertwined. And that's kind of where, as it started to morph and change into something different. And man, I don't know if you or anybody you know has written a book. It's not an easy process. It's a long, arduous process. Lots of people telling you that it's not good enough. So I'm just beyond proud that we've even gotten here.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of work to write a book.
Yep.
And you should be very proud. That's exciting.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to read it. So what was that? What was that mindset moment? What was that mindset moment? You said that you went inward to look out, to say, okay, these are the things that I keep on doing. So what was your hang up that you realized that wasn't serving you? Was there a particular one or two items, like maybe, because I know we all have our something.
Yeah, there were lots. There are lots. And just so anybody listening, there are always going to be, as you continue to peel back the onion, right, you're going to find more stinky things. Like, it's just the way it is. More layers and more layers. A friend of mine once said, actually, it's in the book. She said, we'll often have this belief that we have will be a wolf dressed up in sheep's clothing, right? It will keep showing up in different ways. A lot of times there's this saying like new levels, new devils, but sometimes it's like new levels, same devils, but it looks different, right? It just looks kind of different. So the big one for me is still something that I work with my coaches, I'll apply this work myself. Formative years of, junior high, middle school, high school. I was super tall, super skinny, super awkward, and super smart. None of those things were very good for making friends and for getting girls to like me. None of them. Okay. So what I did was I said, okay, if I can bend my ethics and morals, adjust my beliefs, kind of fit in, become a bit of a chameleon, they'll like me. People will like me when I do this or do that. And this was one of the things that hockey was for me. When I played hockey, I was really good at it and people liked me. Girls liked guys who played hockey. I had 20 forced friends with all my teammates. Like, these things that, these are very important to a teenager. And so I would adjust myself and kind of put on the mask of whatever stereotype I needed to be so that I could fit in. When you get to being, an adult who owns a business, and as we're starting to see on social media, if you aren't able to share your opinion and aren't willing to be unliked, to be disliked is a better way to say that. If you're not willing to be disliked by people, you will never stand out in this crowded marketplace that we're in right now. So me trying to just like be liked and tiptoe around and be a chameleon has been a real challenge for me and continues to be, but it's something that I'm aware of and I'm actively working towards changing. This like, well, if I say this or I do this, they might not like me. They might exile me. They might say that, I'm an idiot or I'm wrong. But really at the end of the day, if I'm not truthful about who I am, like, the best way to be successful is to be authentic, right? You have to do that.
Or they may applaud your vulnerability and say the very things that they are thinking but are too afraid to say.
And that's what I've learned, right? Is when you share those things, more often than not, 99% of it is that, and 1% of it is people chastising you. And that's more about themselves than it is about you.
That's a huge learning. That is huge.
Yeah.
The 4 agreements. Love that. Don't
Bingo.
take things personally, right?
Yeah.
That was a game changer for me. So I understand. I understand that. So now that we've warmed up here, I would love to ask the question that this podcast is all about. If you had the opportunity to go back in time, what would you do all over again?
Yeah, I'm gonna play along because I honestly, I mean, look, I have an incredible wife who I love deeply, and we have just a great relationship, and we're on this amazing adventure of parenthood now. So it's really hard for me to say I'd do things differently, because if this thing that I'm about to say, if I did it differently, I probably wouldn't have met her. That being said, I really wish that I had stuck with it in my hockey career. So what happened was, because I was so afraid of failure, when I did fail, and I failed on a grand stage, if people are looking for some fun YouTube videos, there's a grainy video from 2005 of when I got in a goalie fight in hockey in front of 10,000 people and got my nose broken as a 17-year-old. And that was pretty much the cascade that led to the cascade that ended my hockey career, because I kind of moved down to a lower level. I got traded, and then I moved down to a lower level and all these things. And really, I just kind of like, I let that win. And I really wish that I had stuck it out. You know, my wife was a high level soccer player, and she was forced to end her career because of injuries. But the difference is she can say that she did everything she could to make it. And I can't say that. And I think a little bit of me lives with that regret that I left something on the table. You know, I really wish that I would have this wasn't a thing at the time. It was the early 2000s, but, you know, hire a sports psychologist or get curious and try and get more support from my coaches or things like that. But, you know, I was just so ingrained in this, like, it's everybody else's fault. It's not my fault, because I was trying to keep myself safe, that I just like let that narrative win and just kind of went to lower levels and thought, you know what, I'll play at a lower level. I'll win every game. I'll feel good about myself. It'll be great. There's that kind of like good enough mentality again of, you know, just staying away from failure. And I really wish that I would have been like, no, like, let's like go full out and see how far we can go. And if, you know, if I come up short, I come up short, but at least I'll know that I really went after it. So, you know, that's the only thing I would do different, but at the same time, I'm in a pretty good place. So let's just put a caveat on that.
Sounds fair. And what was the moment where you decided, okay, I am going to do mindset? Because clearly you were playing hockey professionally, maybe not at the level that you wanted to be. You did the shift into mindset. Did it happen right away? Was there something in between? Like, how did you get there?
There's a lot of pain in between. A lot of pain.
What was the pain? Sorry.
Yeah, so
sorry to be so like,
no,
whoa, what was it?
My story, I mean, like, I want people to know that, like, I believe that I am perfectly and uniquely qualified to coach people on this, because I have been where they are. My mindset is what stopped me from playing pro hockey. I think I had the skills to play pro, maybe not play at the highest level, but I had the skill to go further than I went. And my mindset is what stopped me. And so I failed on the biggest stage because of my mindset. And so I believe that, unlike a lot of these gurus out there who are just like, kind of like, have always really like had these tools, I had to like actively learn these tools. Like I often say, 5-6 years ago, I would have laughed at me doing this podcast right now. I've been like, this is a joke. This is woo woo. This is stupid. What are you thinking? And it was the exact thing I needed most. So, you know, my hockey career all but ends, and I continue trying to play and not knowing that I was just dwindling down into these worse leagues, and it was getting worse and worse and more frustrating, and same patterns. And then I go and do something else that I'm good at because I love doing things that I was already good at. So I went to school, got a degree, and went into the personal training world. Well, I was good at that because it was like a locker room feel and I was very smart in terms of science and I could put together a workout program. But, I kind of started seeing these same patterns, and I started seeing a lot of these patterns in my clients, right? Is like they just wanted to show up. They wanted me to tell them to squat and deadlift and all that stuff. And then they'd go away for a week, eat like crap, treat themselves like crap, and come back with the same problems every week. And I was getting frustrated by it. And what I started to see was this real pull to like help people in a bigger way, right? I'd had some really good mentors, one of which was the person who really said like, hey, you've got to look in the mirror here. Like, this isn't a tactics and strategies problem. You need to look in the mirror and figure out what's between the ears. And that really set me on this new path. And forced me to look inward. And then I saw other people who wanted the things that I had gotten and needed the mindset work. And I kind of just started saying, hey, like, can I help you with this? And I created a bit of a curriculum and framed myself as a business coach. I'll help you make more money, which I did with people. And then it just kept kind of evolving. I got an opportunity to work with a company, which is where I met our mutual friend, Ginny, work at a company and kind of became the mindset, personal development, performance guy, and really got this opportunity to speak at events and to coach people specifically on this stuff, and started to realize like, these are like multi-7-figure business owners who are like crying on calls with me and saying that I've changed their lives based on some of this stuff. Like, whoa. People need this. Like, and this story of mine is a powerful way to get people engaged and to get people sharing. And then it just snowballed from there to where we are now, which is now I have a book on mindset. Like, the one thing that held me back from doing what I wanted as a kid, I've now written a book on it. Like, that's what's this wild circle of life.
That's amazing. And what I heard from your story was that you found your authentic self. And you were finally able to lead other people to find their authentic selves, let go of some of those limiting beliefs, and things just started flowing. Am I off here?
You put it it was much more succinct than me. So this is very good. Much more.
Well, I
concise.
wanted to hear your
exactly
story.
It.
I needed to hear your story.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that so much. So
yeah, and I think, if I could just make one more point on that, I believe that all coaching, it's easy to think we need more certifications or we need to get better at certain things. And in many ways, certifications and those things are good in terms of scope of practice. But the best coaching is when you're a couple of steps ahead of someone and you reach your hand back and say, come with me. I've been there. I've done that. I've made those mistakes. Follow me. Let me shorten your timeline. That's what coaching really is.
I appreciate that. I think our listeners will appreciate that. So,
I hope they do.
What is a story where you had a client that just realized some sort of success or story that you could never have imagined? Can you share about that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I can share one that, I have this, she's still a client actually. She's like 7-figure business owner and has just like found these like frustrating moments that have kind of started to add up over the last couple of years. Her income's been getting lower a little bit, and like there's been some challenges. And then every time we look into this, it's like, man, like you're doing everything right. Like, when we look on the surface, like she's doing everything right. She's really good at creating content. She's really good at, driving sales. She has a great product or service that she provides, but just like wasn't working. And I've coached her a bunch. And at a recent event, we gave all of the people at the event a copy of the book, and she read it on the way home. And this is just so you know, this is what like really high performers do. They get these things and they take action on them immediately. And so in the book, there's like these actual like little areas where you can do work, like you can write in the book. And like a lot of people will read it, be like, oh, that's nice, and not do it. But a few people have already sent me like, hey, this is what I wrote in this section and stuff. And she's like, I uncovered that the last couple of years, everything has kind of felt harder. And it coincided with, I think it was like 2 or 3 like big shifts in her life of like a couple of breakups with friends, like, like where friends kind of broke away and it wasn't working anymore. And like these kind of like big life events really coincided with these challenges. And it was like this huge recognition for her that like, oh, like, okay, it wasn't about what I was doing. It was that I need to grieve these relationships. I need to learn from them. I need to, and this is what I see all the time, is that when we are forced to ask ourselves different questions and deeper questions, we uncover these things that it doesn't feel like it connects, but it does. Like so many of us have these things from like what our parents said to us, or the way we were treated by a teacher or by friends or by people in school. And when we can uncover those, everything becomes a lot clearer. And, she's back on track. She's in a much better place now, doing the same things, but this is different. And that's what's really most powerful.
That is impressive. And it sounds like that was the key for her to move forward more effortlessly.
That's it. And when we make those shifts, when we uncover these and we let go of them, right? Like truly let go of these stories and these things that are holding us back, everything gets easier. Like period. Like all the hard things, all the hard decisions get easier.
I feel like that's going to be hard to top. However, do you have any parting words for our guests?
People could listen to this and be like, this is great. I love this. I think this, this guy's speaking my language. I totally understand what he's talking about or whatever. Or some people might listen to it and be like, this is crap. See you later. That's fine too. But if you're like vibing on this, but there's that little voice in the back of your head, I just want to encourage you that like probably the only difference between you and the person that you admire and the person who has done everything that you could ever want to do, and like that, that role model for you, probably the only difference is belief. If you could just believe in yourself today, tomorrow, like if you could just try on that jacket of self-belief and confidence and start looking for evidence that you are on the right track, I bet you'll start to find that evidence, and I bet you'll start to believe, and I bet things will start coming for you. Like get a little more curious and recognize that all of this success isn't just for certain people, it's for anybody. And all you have to do is choose to believe in yourself.
So powerful. Thank you so much, Gavin.
Thank you.
It was truly a pleasure speaking with you today, and I cannot wait to read your book.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Like I do appreciate the place to share my voice and to share some of my stories. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing.